Right now, somewhere, a perfectly capable adult is staring at a 2-minute email and treating it like it's a circling tiger. Heart rate up, palms a little sweaty. Suddenly, the dishes look fascinating. Here's the part that should bother you. Brain scans show that the moment before you start a task you don't want to do, the pain centers in your brain light up. Not metaphorically, actual pain regions. The same ones that fire when you stub your toe.
You're not lazy. You're not broken. Your brain is running ancient hardware that thinks starting something hard is dangerous. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why it does that and the one weird trick neuroscientists actually use to shut it up. Stick around, because the last one is the kind of fact you'll bring up at dinner and nobody will believe you. Let's start with that pain thing, because it's wild. Researchers led by Fuchsia Sorois scanned the brains of chronic procrastinators. They asked them to think about starting a task they'd been avoiding. The anterior insular cortex, a region tied to physical discomfort, lit up like a Christmas tree. But here's the twist. Once people actually started the task, the discomfort dropped fast. The brain wasn't afraid of the task, it was afraid of starting it. Which raises a weirdly specific question. Why would starting feel worse than doing? Turns out, your brain hates uncertainty more than it hates effort. Think about scrolling your phone. Every swipe gives you an instant, predictable hit. You know exactly what you're getting. Now think about opening that report you've been putting off. Your brain can't simulate the ending. It doesn't know how hard it'll be, how long it'll take, or whether you'll mess it up. And an unpredictable task gets filed in the same mental folder as an actual threat. No finish line your brain can picture means no safety. So it stalls you, the same way it would stall you in front of a dark cave. But that's not even the strangest part. In 2009, a researcher named Hal Hirschfield put people in an fMRI machine and asked them to think about their future self. Not next week, years from now. And the brain activity that showed up looked almost identical to the activity you get when someone thinks about a complete stranger.
Read that again. To your own brain, future you is basically some random person you've never met, which explains a lot, honestly. When you tell yourself, I'll deal with this tomorrow, you're not making a promise to yourself. You're assigning your homework to a stranger and hoping they don't mind. Spoiler? They mind. They mind a lot, and they're furious at you by Thursday. So now we've got two problems stacking on top of each other. Starting feels like danger, and the person who has to deal with the consequences feels like someone else's issue entirely. No wonder that email sits there for 9 days.
But here's where it gets almost funny. There's a psychological phenomenon called the Zeigarnik effect, named after a Soviet psychologist who noticed something odd about waiters. They could remember a customer's entire complicated order perfectly, right up until the bill was paid. Then it vanished from memory instantly. Unfinished tasks stick in your head like a splinter. Finished ones disappear. Which means that email you're avoiding isn't actually resting in peace in some forgotten corner of your brain. It's quietly running in the background the whole time, like an app you forgot to close, draining your mental battery.
So avoiding the task doesn't even save you energy. It just spends that energy slowly instead of all at once. Your brain tricked you twice in one sentence. Impressive, honestly. Now, here's the genuinely useful part. Because all of this would just be a fun horror story about your own skull if there wasn't a fix. It turns out you don't have to convince your brain the task is easy. You just have to lower how much uncertainty it's facing at the start. This is the entire logic behind something productivity researchers call the 2-minute rule. You don't commit to finishing the report. You commit to opening the document and writing one sentence. That's it. Why does that work? Because your brain's threat alarm is triggered by the size of the unknown, not the size of the task. Once you take one small, predictable action, the cave isn't dark anymore. You can see a few feet in. And once the discomfort drops, that anterior insular cortex calms down, and momentum does the rest. It's basically Newton's first law, except instead of physics, it's you avoiding a Google Doc. So if your brain hates starting, just trick it into thinking it already started.
And now, the part you're going to want to remember. Scientists found something almost poetic buried in all this research. People who were shown a digitally aged photo of themselves, an image of what they'd look like in 30 years, suddenly became dramatically better at saving money and finishing long-term tasks. Why? Because seeing future you's face turned a stranger into a familiar face. The brain stopped treating that person like someone else's problem. So the real secret isn't discipline. It's not even motivation. It's tricking your brain into recognizing that future you and present you are actually on the same team.
Your brain isn't lazy. It's just running outdated threat detection software on a world that doesn't have tigers in it anymore. Just deadlines. So next time you're frozen in front of something important, don't wait to feel ready. Open the file. Write one sentence. Trick the alarm before it tricks you. What's the task you've been avoiding the longest? Tell me in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. And if your brain just tried to talk you out of subscribing, that's the same alarm we just talked about. Ignore it, hit subscribe, and let's keep figuring out why we're all a little weird.